I thought marriage would make him better. Instead, it made him a stranger. The man who promised forever started counting my every breath, my every step. When I found the cameras hidden in our home, I realized the nightmare was just beginning. My name is Rachel Torres, and I'm a dental hygienist. I married my college sweetheart 2 years ago. I never imagined love could turn into a prison. The wedding ring that felt too tight. I smiled through our wedding, but something felt wrong even then. The dress was perfect, the flowers were beautiful, and everyone kept telling me how lucky I was. But when Marcus slipped that ring on my finger, it felt too tight. I told myself it was just nerves, just the pressure of the big day, making me imagine things that weren't there. The reception was lovely. My sister Emma caught the bouquet and laughed so hard she snorted champagne through her nose. Marcus's mother sat in the corner, barely touching her cake, watching us with eyes that looked sad instead of happy. I waved at her, trying to make her smile, but she just nodded and looked away. On our drive to the hotel that night, Marcus reached over and took my phone from my purse. "You won't need this for a few days," he said, his voice smooth and calm. "It's our honeymoon. Let's just focus on us." I laughed nervously. "But what if someone needs to reach me? What if there's an emergency?" "I'll have my phone," he said, like that settled everything. "We don't need 2 phones. It's romantic this way. Just you and me." I told myself it was romantic, not controlling. I told myself he just wanted my full attention, that he loved me so much he couldn't stand the idea of me being distracted. That's what love looked like, right? Someone who wanted all of you? But that night in the hotel room, he insisted I quit my job at the dental office. "You don't need to work anymore," he said, running his fingers through my hair. "I make enough for both of us. You can focus on making our house a home, on taking care of us." I'd worked so hard to become a dental hygienist. I loved my patients, loved the satisfaction of helping people smile with confidence again. But Marcus made it sound so reasonable, so caring. He said he wanted to take care of me, that I deserved to relax after working so hard for so many years. By our honeymoon, he was checking my phone every night. He'd taken it back after 2 days, but now he went through every text, every email, every social media message. He asked questions about people I barely remembered, got angry about comments from old classmates I hadn't talked to in years. "Who's this guy?" he'd demand, showing me a message from my cousin Jake, wishing us congratulations. "That's my cousin," I'd explain for the 3rd time. He put a heart emoji. "Why would he do that?" "Because he's happy for us. It doesn't mean anything." But Marcus's face would get tight, his jaw clenched, and suddenly I was the one apologizing, promising to tell my cousin not to use emojis anymore. I was making excuses for completely normal behavior, trying to calm down a jealousy that made no sense. I started to wonder if I'd made a terrible mistake. Late at night, while Marcus slept beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling and think about my life before the wedding. I'd been free then. I'd been happy. Now I felt like I was walking on eggshells, constantly afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing. But I was married now. I'd made vows in front of everyone I loved. I had to make this work somehow. My mother-in-law's strange warning, his mother pulled me aside at Sunday dinner with trembling hands. It was our first family meal since the honeymoon, and I'd been looking forward to it. I thought maybe being around other people would help Marcus relax, would remind him of the man he used to be. Patricia Torres had always been kind to me, but distant. Now she gripped my elbow and whispered urgently, "Rachel, we need to talk. Alone." She led me down the hallway toward the bathroom, glancing back nervously to make sure Marcus wasn't following. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold on to me. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart starting to race. She whispered that her son had problems I didn't know about. Her eyes filled with tears as she spoke. "He's not well, Rachel. He needs help, professional help. I tried to tell you before the wedding, but I was afraid, and I'm so sorry. Before she could explain, Marcus appeared at the end of the hallway. His face was calm, but something cold flashed in his eyes. "Mom," he said quietly, "what are you doing?" "Nothing, sweetheart, just girl talk." Patricia's voice cracked with fear. He walked toward us slowly, deliberately. "Rachel, go back to the dining room. Mom and I need to have a conversation." I didn't want to leave her. Something about the way he looked at his own mother made my stomach twist with dread, but I was still trying to be the good wife, still trying not to cause problems. So I nodded and walked away. I heard them arguing violently in the next room. Through the closed door, I could hear his voice rising, hear her crying and pleading. The other family members at the table pretended not to notice, continuing their conversation about football and the weather like nothing was happening. "Should we check on them?" I asked Marcus's father. He didn't even look up from his plate. Best to let them work it out. When they finally came back, Patricia's eyes were red and swollen. She wouldn't look at me. Marcus had his arm around her shoulders, squeezing tight enough that I could see her wince. That night, after Marcus had gone to get the car, I caught Patricia in the kitchen. She was washing dishes with jerky, frantic movements. "Patricia, what did you mean earlier? What problems does Marcus have?" She dropped a plate. It shattered on the floor, pieces scattering everywhere. She stared at the broken ceramic like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. "I can't," she whispered. "Please don't ask me. Please just be careful." I helped her clean up the plate, and that's when I found bruises on her arms. Dark purple marks that looked like fingerprints. 4 on each arm, exactly where someone would grab you if they wanted to hurt you, wanted to control you. "Did Marcus do this to you?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She pulled her sleeves down quickly. "I bruise easily. It's nothing. Please, Rachel, just go home." But it wasn't nothing. Those bruises were fresh, probably from just minutes ago when they'd been arguing in the other room. My husband had hurt his own mother. And everyone in this family just pretended it was normal. The cameras in our bedroom, I noticed a small red light blinking from the smoke detector 2 weeks later. It was late afternoon, and Marcus was still at work. I'd been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when something caught my eye. A tiny red dot flashing on and off in a steady rhythm. Smoke detectors don't blink red like that. At least ours never had before. I dragged a chair over and stood on it, my hands trembling as I reached up. When I unscrewed it, my breath caught in my throat. Inside the smoke detector was a tiny camera, the lens pointing directly at our bed. My legs went weak. I had to grip the wall to keep from falling off the chair. He'd been watching me, recording me, for how long? I searched the house and found 6 more cameras everywhere. 1 in the bathroom, hidden behind the mirror. 1 in the living room, tucked inside a decorative plant. 1 in the kitchen, disguised as part of the coffee maker. 1 in my closet, 1 in the laundry room, 1 even in the garage. Every private moment I'd had in this house, he'd been watching. Every time I'd cried alone in the shower, every time I'd changed clothes, every vulnerable second, he'd seen it all. Recorded it all. My hands shook as I realized he'd been watching me for months. These cameras looked expensive, professional. This wasn't something he'd done on impulse. He'd planned this carefully, probably before we'd even moved into this house together. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, my whole body shaking with rage and fear and betrayal. How could he do this? How could the man who'd promised to love and protect me turn me into his prisoner, his personal surveillance project? I packed a bag with shaking hands, throwing in clothes and toiletries and my important documents. I had to get out. I had to leave right now before he came home, before he knew I'd discovered his sick secret. But he came home before I could leave. I heard his key in the lock just as I was zipping up my suitcase. My heart stopped. I shoved the bag under the bed and ran to the living room, trying to look normal, trying to pretend everything was fine. "Hey, baby," he said, kissing my cheek. His eyes scanned the room quickly, like he was checking to make sure everything was still in place. "How was your day?" "Fine," I lied, my voice coming out too high, too tight. "Just fine." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good. I was thinking we could order Chinese for dinner. You love Chinese, right?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He knew exactly what I loved, what I hated, what I did when I thought I was alone. He'd been studying me like a lab rat, documenting my every move. That night, I lay awake beside him, knowing that somewhere cameras were recording us, recording me, and I had no idea how I was going to escape. My sister's confession. I called my sister Emma, crying the next morning, begging her to help me escape. Marcus had left for work early, and I had maybe an hour before he'd start checking the cameras on his phone, wondering why I wasn't moving around the house like usual. "Em, I need you," I sobbed into the phone. "I need to leave him. Something's really wrong. He's been watching me, controlling me, and I'm scared." She went silent on the phone for a long, terrible moment. The silence stretched on so long I thought the call had dropped. "Emma, are you there? Please, I need you to come get me. I need somewhere to stay until I can figure out what to do." Then she said, "Rachel, I can't help you. I'm the one who told him to do it." The words didn't make sense at first. I actually laughed, thinking I'd misheard her. "What? What do you mean?" I mean, I told him to watch you, to control you, to keep you close. Her voice was calm, matter of fact, like she was telling me what she'd had for breakfast. You needed it, Rachel. You've always needed someone to manage you. My own sister had convinced my husband to control me. The woman who'd grown up with me, who'd been my best friend, who'd caught my bouquet at the wedding, she'd orchestrated my nightmare. Why? I whispered, my voice breaking. Why would you do this to me? She sighed, like I was being deliberately difficult. Because you've always been too independent. Even when we were kids, you never listened to anyone. You did whatever you wanted. You needed someone to fix that, to make you understand that you can't just do whatever you please. Independent? Emma, we're talking about my life, my freedom. You're being dramatic, she said coldly. Marcus loves you. He just wants to take care of you, to make sure you're safe. I helped him see that you needed structure, boundaries. You should be thanking me. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. My sister, the person I'd trusted most in the world, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I'll never forgive you for this, I said, my voice shaking with rage. You will, she said confidently. Eventually, you'll understand that I did this because I love you. Then she hung up. I sat on the floor with the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. My sister had always been competitive, always needed to be better than me at everything, but I'd never imagined she hated me this much. I had no one. My husband was my jailer, my sister was his accomplice, and his mother was too afraid to help. I was completely alone, trapped in my own home. He disabled my car that same afternoon. I'd been planning to just drive away, to head to a hotel or anywhere that wasn't here. But when I went to the garage, I found the battery disconnected, the tires deflated, and my keys missing from my purse. Every door and window now had locks I couldn't open. New deadbolts had appeared overnight, all requiring keys I didn't have. Even the windows had been fitted with locks that needed special tools to remove. It's for security, Marcus explained when I asked about them. We've had break-ins in the neighborhood. I want to keep you safe. But we both knew the truth. The locks weren't to keep danger out. They were to keep me in. He brought home groceries but never let me leave with him. Every few days he'd go shopping and come back with everything I might need. Food, toiletries, cleaning supplies. He'd even bought me new books and magazines, like I was a pet he needed to keep entertained. Why can't I come with you? I asked one Saturday morning. Because you're safer here, he said simply. The world is dangerous, Rachel. People are unpredictable. Here, I know you're protected. I tried calling the police, but he'd hidden every phone. My cell phone was gone. The landline had been disconnected. He'd even removed the tablets and laptops from the house, taking them to work with him every day. I was a prisoner in the house I'd once called home. The same walls that were supposed to shelter me now trapped me. The same rooms where I'd imagined raising children now felt like a cage. I spent my days watching through windows I couldn't open, seeing neighbors walk their dogs and children ride their bikes. Freedom was right there, just on the other side of the glass, but I couldn't reach it. At night, Marcus would come home and pretend everything was normal. He'd cook dinner, we'd watch TV together, he'd hold me close and tell me how much he loved me. Like he wasn't my captor, like I had any choice in being there. Aren't you happy? He'd ask, stroking my hair. We have everything we need. It's just you and me the way it should be. I'd nod, because disagreeing would only make things worse, but inside I was screaming. Inside I was dying a little more each day. I tried to break a window once, using a heavy book. The glass didn't even crack. He'd replaced all the windows with some kind of reinforced material. Even if I'd wanted to escape that way, it was impossible. I was trapped. Completely, hopelessly trapped. And no one even knew I needed help. The patient who recognized my fear, he finally let me return to work after 3 months. I don't know what changed his mind. Maybe he thought I was broken enough, compliant enough. Maybe he just got bored of having me around the house all day. You've been so good lately, he said one morning. I think you've earned this. Earned it. Like going to work, like living my life, was a privilege he could grant or take away at will. That first day back at the dental office felt like breathing again. My coworkers were shocked at how thin I'd gotten, how hollow my eyes looked. They asked where I'd been, and I lied, said I'd been sick. A patient noticed my hands shaking while cleaning her teeth. She was an older woman, probably in her 60s, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. Honey, are you all right? She asked, sitting up in the chair. I'm fine, I said automatically. Just a little out of practice. But my hands kept shaking. I'd always had steady hands before, had prided myself on my precise work. Now I could barely hold the instruments without dropping them. She watched me carefully as I worked, and I could feel her studying my face. When I finished, she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. She slipped me her business card. She was a divorce lawyer. She pressed it into my palm, closing my fingers around it tightly. "I've seen that look before," she whispered. "On my own face 30 years ago. Take the card, hide it somewhere safe. When you're ready, call me." I wanted to cry. Someone saw me, someone understood. I hid it in my bra before Marcus picked me up. The whole drive home, I was terrified he'd somehow know, somehow sense the card pressed against my skin. But he just talked about his day, complaining about his boss, acting like everything was perfectly normal. That card became my only hope for freedom. Late at night, while Marcus slept, I'd touch it through my nightgown, reminding myself that escape was possible, that someone out there was willing to help me. I just had to figure out how to reach her without getting caught. My sister's twisted jealousy. I snuck out to meet the lawyer 3 weeks later. Marcus had a business trip, the first time he'd left me alone in months. He'd locked every exit, but I'd found a basement window he'd forgotten about. It was small, barely big enough for me to squeeze through, but I made it work. The lawyer's name was Patricia Chen, and she listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed heavily. "Rachel, I need to tell you something you might not want to hear," she said. "I did some research after you left that voicemail. I know your sister, Emma." My stomach dropped. "You know her?" "She came to see me 6 months ago. She wanted to know how she could help your husband gain more control over you in the marriage. She asked about legal strategies, about what rights you had, and how to minimize them." I learned the truth then, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Emma had been in love with my husband since college. They'd met first, actually. She'd introduced us at a party, thinking Marcus would be interested in her, but he'd looked past her and seen me instead. She'd manipulated him over the years, told him I was cheating, made him paranoid. She'd shown him articles about unfaithful wives, sent him anonymous messages claiming she'd seen me with other men, slowly poisoned his mind against me. Her plan was to destroy our marriage so she could have him. She thought if I left him, or if he left me, she'd be there to pick up the pieces. She'd be the supportive friend who understood him, who'd always loved him. "Your sister is dangerous," Patricia said bluntly. "This isn't just sibling rivalry. This is obsession. She's been planning this for years." I realized my own sister was my real enemy. Marcus was sick, yes, but Emma had made him sicker. She'd taken whatever insecurities he had and amplified them, twisted them into something monstrous. "I'm going to help you," Patricia said firmly, "but you need to understand, your sister isn't going to let you go easily. When she realizes you're leaving, she'll fight back. She'll try to turn everyone against you. Are you prepared for that?" I nodded, my jaw set with determination. "I'm prepared for anything. I just want my life back." She smiled grimly. "Then let's get to work. Collecting evidence." I pretended everything was fine while gathering proof. Marcus had no idea I'd left the house, no idea I was building a case against him. I played the perfect wife, smiling and cooking and acting grateful for his protection. I found recordings he'd made of me sleeping, showering, everything. He kept them all on a laptop in his office, organized by date and time. There were hundreds of hours of footage. Me brushing my teeth, me crying alone, me changing clothes, me doing absolutely nothing remarkable, just existing. Watching myself on those recordings felt like looking at a stranger. The woman on the screen looked defeated, broken. She jumped at sounds, moved nervously around the house like she was afraid of her own shadow. That woman was me, and I barely recognized her. I documented every bruise, every threat, every locked door. Patricia had given me a small camera disguised as a pen, and I used it to photograph everything. The locks on the doors, the empty spaces where phones should be, my car with its disconnected battery. I recorded conversations where Marcus talked about how I belonged to him, how I needed his guidance, how I'd be lost without him. I kept a journal hidden in a tampon box, the one place I knew he'd never look, documenting every day, every controlling behavior, every moment of fear. The lawyer said I had enough for a restraining order within 2 weeks. We had evidence of illegal surveillance, false imprisonment, emotional abuse, and more. Any judge would grant the order immediately, but I wanted more than escape. I wanted revenge. I wanted Marcus and Emma both to pay for what they'd done to me. I wanted them exposed, humiliated, destroyed the way they'd destroyed me. Revenge is dangerous, Patricia warned. The goal should be your safety, your freedom, not punishment. But she didn't understand. They'd stolen months of my life. They'd made me afraid to exist. They'd turned my own home into a prison and my own sister into an enemy. They deserved to suffer. So I kept collecting evidence, kept building my case, and I started planning something that would bring both of them down at once. The confrontation at family dinner. I invited Emma and his mother to our house for dinner 2 weeks later. Marcus was surprised but pleased. He thought I was finally adjusting, finally accepting my place. "I'm so proud of you," he said, kissing my forehead. "I knew you'd come around eventually." I'd prepared his favorite meal, pot roast with roasted vegetables. The table looked beautiful, candles lit, wine poured. Everything seemed perfect. Emma arrived first, looking smug. She'd dressed up, wearing a low-cut dress that she kept adjusting to show more cleavage. For my husband, at my dinner table. "This is nice," she said, surveying the room. "Very domestic of you, Rachel." Patricia Torres arrived next, looking nervous. She hadn't wanted to come, but I'd insisted. She needed to see this, needed to know it wasn't her fault. We ate dinner making small talk, discussing nothing important. Marcus kept his hand on my knee under the table, possessive, controlling even in this moment. Then, as dessert was being served, I stood up. "Before we have cake, I want to share something with everyone," I said. My voice steady despite my racing heart. "A little project I've been working on." I played the recordings of Emma coaching him to control me. Her voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "She needs to know you're in charge. Install cameras, track her movements, make sure she can't leave. She'll thank you eventually. And when she finally breaks, when she finally leaves, I'll be here for you." Emma's face went white as her manipulation was exposed to everyone. Marcus stared at her in shock, then at me, then back at her. "Emma," he said, his voice breaking, "you told me Rachel was cheating on me. You said you'd seen her with other men. You said—" "I did it because I love you!" Emma screamed, standing up so fast her chair fell over. "I've always loved you. She doesn't deserve you." His mother broke down crying, admitting she'd tried to warn me. "I knew," she sobbed. "I knew Emma was poisoning his mind, but I was afraid to say anything. I was afraid of both of them. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry." Marcus lunged at me across the table, his face twisted with rage. "You recorded us? You've been spying on me?" The irony would have been funny if it wasn't terrifying, but I'd already called the police before dinner started. I heard sirens outside, saw the flashing lights through the window. "The difference between us," I said calmly, "is that what I did was legal. What you did was a crime. Freedom tastes like justice." The restraining order was granted within days. The judge looked at my evidence and listened to my testimony with an expression of disgust. He ordered Marcus to stay at least 500 feet away from me at all times. Emma lost her job when I showed her employer what she'd done. Turns out, plotting to imprison your sister doesn't look good when you work in human resources. They fired her immediately, worried about the liability. She called me once after that, screaming and crying. "You ruined my life. You destroyed everything." "No," I said quietly. "You did that yourself. I just made sure everyone knew the truth." Then I blocked her number and never looked back. My husband was arrested for illegal surveillance and domestic abuse. His lawyer tried to argue that I'd consented to the cameras, that our marriage gave him the right to monitor me. The jury didn't buy it. He got 18 months in prison and 5 years of probation after that. His mother, Patricia, apologized to me over and over. She sent letters, left voicemails, showed up at my door crying. Eventually, I agreed to meet her for coffee. "I was afraid," she explained, her hands wrapped around her cup. "He's my son, and I was afraid of what he might do if I told the truth. But that's not an excuse. You could have died in that house, and I did nothing." I forgave her, eventually. She'd been a victim too, in her own way. Abused by her son, terrified of speaking up. We met for coffee once a month after that, 2 women healing from the same family's poison. I moved into my own apartment with locks only I control. It's small, just 1 bedroom, but it's mine. Every door, every window, every choice, all mine. The first night in my new place, I stood at the window and looked out at the city lights. I could go anywhere, do anything. No one was watching. No one was controlling me. I was free. Some betrayals come from strangers, but the worst come from family. The people who are supposed to love you, protect you, support you, they're the ones who can hurt you most deeply because you trust them, because you never see it coming. But I also learned that freedom is worth fighting for, that you can survive betrayal and come out stronger, that you don't have to accept abuse just because it comes from someone who says they love you. I went back to work at the dental office full-time. My hands don't shake anymore. I laugh with my coworkers, make plans for the future, live my life without fear. Sometimes I still have nightmares about that house, about the cameras, about Emma's voice coaching Marcus to destroy me. But then I wake up in my own bed, in my own apartment, with my own life spread out before me like an open road. And I remember, I survived, I'm free. And no one will ever control me again. The moral lesson is simple but crucial. Love should never feel like a cage. The moment someone tries to control you, monitor you, trap you, they've stopped loving you. Real love is built on trust and freedom, not surveillance and fear. And family who betray you aren't family at all. They're just people who happen to share your blood. Trust yourself when something feels wrong. Don't ignore the warning signs, the red flags, the small moments that make your stomach twist. Because those moments are trying to tell you something important. You deserve better. You always deserve better.